Yo, what's the story? Today we're going to dive into all the important GoPro Hero 13 video settings. And make sure you're in the Pro controls by swiping down from the top of the screen, swiping right, tapping easy, and then selecting the Pro controls. First off, we got to be in our video mode, pressing the mode button at the side, or you can swipe. Now that we're in video, there's a couple of things that I'm going to explain that's on the screen. So up here is our battery. This little icon here shows that we are in video mode. This is what's left on our SD card. And then we have some customizable options. Now let's jump back here to the video so we can either select the existing one that we want, or we can look at one of the ones that we have created. So I'm just going to select this one first off. And then we're in that video mode with all of these customizable from this mode. So I'm going to select the settings cog here, and then we can see we have all different options. So 8 to 7, for example, gives us different resolutions to work with. So let's just for now jump back to 16 to 9, and let's go into 5.3K. 5.3K will give us 24, 30, or 60. So we can select our frame rate. I'm going to do 30. And then we have the type of lens that we actually want to use in this mode. So again, we have our linear and horizon lock. We have our just normal linear lens. We have our wide, SuperView, and HyperView. All of these give you different viewpoints from the actual GoPro. Hyper smooth off on our auto boost, as we've already explained. So I'm just going to leave this on linear because I like linear, or wide is a pretty good one. Schedule capture, this is an important one for video settings if you're doing like time lapses or something like that, where you actually want to schedule the capture. So you can turn it on, and then you can select whatever time you want your GoPro to turn on and start capturing. Now keep in mind, if this is, you're setting this to do a sunrise at 4 a.m. or whatever, you really have to have the GoPro powered with some kind of battery pack, or maybe that expensive magnetic charge thing that they've got going on. You can also select, actually, let me turn this off because I don't want this going off in a minute. We've also a duration. So a duration, very simple. You can have no limit. You can have this fire off for up to 3 hours. So whatever you're doing, you do you. Hindsight. So basically what hindsight does, it's going to capture video, and your video will start when the shutter button is pressed if this is turned off. But if you have 15 seconds or 30 seconds, then basically the camera is always going to be capturing stuff. And then when you press record, it's going to give you the last 30 seconds or the 15 seconds. In a lot of cases, I just leave this off. But again, if it's something that you need, this is where it's actually set up. Timer. Timer is really useful depending on the type of shots that you're doing. So you can have a 3-second timer or maybe a 10-second timer. And then your zoom. Look, it's here, but please don't use the zoom in the GoPro. It's a digital zoom. It's not great. And you're far better off just zooming in post if that's your thing, but you just leave it alone. So that's the kind of the capture side of it. Now, Protune, this is where the real kind of customization comes into the GoPro. You may never need to use this, but if you do, you are going to get the best out of the GoPro Hero 13. I promise. Now, bit depth. We have 8-bit or we have 10-bit. Now, keep in mind, 8-bit is dealing in millions of colors, and 10-bit is dealing in 1 billion colors. So 10-bit is going to get your colors looking the best. It's going to remove any kind of banding from skies. And if you're color grading your footage, you're messing about with it in any way, then 10-bit is the way to go. Bitrate. The bitrate in the GoPros aren't kind of huge, but if there's a lot of movement on screen, let's say you've got a splash or dust or a lot of action happening, then you need a high bit rate. So it'll give you 120 megabits per second. I know some folks are like, that's not enough for me. But I think as a default, you should always have your bit rate on high. You are looking for the best possible footage, right? Right. Your shutter. Okay, this is where it starts getting a little bit weird. You can have a custom shutter. You can bring it all the way up to 1/7680 of a second. Or you can bring it down to that magical 1/50, 60, and so on. And you know what? Unless you're using GoPros and D filters, then I tend to leave the shutter on auto. You can start dialing in, you get ND filters on, but that's a whole different conversation. Your EV comp, okay, this is the exposure value. So basically, kind of how bright your videos and photos will be. So you can bring it always up to +2 or bring it all the way down to -2. That's kind of 2 stops. I tend to bring it down to like 0.5 in the negative because GoPros overexpose things slightly, so it's probably good to have it down to that negative 0.5. Next one up here are white balance. This is really important because a white balance is basically how warm or cool your scene is. On auto, it will work pretty well a lot of the time, but if you have to dial it into that 5500 daylight white balance, so there's never going to be any color shifts, you can adjust it here. We can see it says NATO, auto, and up to 5500. In a lot of cases, I feel for most footage, it'd be pretty okay just doing it this way. ISO min and ISO max. These are super important. Now, ISO is basically how kind of artificially bright the sensor will get. So the minimum the ISO will be, you can leave it on auto. The maximum the ISO can be is where the problem starts. So the higher up this number, especially kind of when the light is going down, the more noise it's going to bring into the shadows and the darker parts of your video. Not a good look, okay? So I tend to have the ISO max at 800 at a push. Generally, I think 400 is probably about as good as you're going to get it. But if you have to, no more than 800. Sharpness. GoPros have a really distinctive look besides the fisheye look, which is removed depending on the lens that you're using. But sharpness, bring it down to low. Don't ever have it high. Don't ever have it medium because it's just a very unnatural kind of digital look. And that's not what you want to give folks who are looking at your videos, right? Denoise reduces the amount of video noise in your footage. I haven't played around with this too much, but to be brutally honest, I would tend to leave it at low. Anything where you have an algorithm trying to adjust your footage, a lot of the time it can be a bad idea. Leave this on low. And if you're getting very noisy footage, GoPro probably isn't the camera for you anyway. You need something far more capable. And then color. Color, natural, you can have it vibrant or flat. Now, flat isn't log, but we'll get into that in a while. But natural is okay. Flat, use it if you're color grading. Vibrant is a little bit too much, but either way, keep it in mind, natural or flat. For me, I always like to kind of push my stuff around, so I'll always go flat. Audio. So raw audio will give you a WAV file if you want to have it on. It'll record it onto the track, or onto the SD card even. And then you can create a raw audio track with full processing, or you can have zero, so without any kind of raw audio track. Depending, it's like a safety feature if you want. Then audio tuning. I've had good experimentation with this, and I think if you're outdoors, anywhere outdoors, change this up to voice. Okay, so you can really create an outdoor preset, which we'll go through in a minute if you want. But audio tuning voice works really well. Other kind of normal conditions, standard is good enough. Wind reduction, if it's really windy, have it not off, but have it on, or you can just leave it as auto. I find auto works best. Then the media mod is going to come up there if you have it. Your dashboard, okay, so the dashboard will kind of basically let you update your dashboard settings automatically when you choose a preset. So for example, you can have your voice commands off on this particular preset. You could turn your beeps off. So have this on or off allows you to customize all of these. Let's say you had a vlogging preset. So the front display would maybe always show full screen or the actual screen. So you can actually frame yourself. So then once you go to this preset, this dashboard is on, this is all going to happen. Then shortcuts, these are the icons that we saw on the lower left and right and top and bottom. So you can have lower left and you can change these to whatever you want. Right out of the bat, this one here is digital lens. It's pretty good if you want to change your lens, having your settings. And again, just to make any changes here, you can just scroll up and down and put it in and you're good to go. And then you can restore them if needs be, if you screwed it all up, which we all do, and you can go back to the initial out of the box setting for this preset, or then you can save as, so you can save it as a brand new preset. So you can give it its own little icon. You can got loads of things that you can call it, travel, stars, stuff, whatever. But what I like to do is create a custom name. And to create the custom name, you tap the little tick, and then you can call it whatever you want by changing to the numbers and the letters as well. No idea what that means, but just for example, right? And that's how you do it. And then you go there, tick, and now we can see 7678 MLK. And if we tap this again for our presets, we can see it's right up the top. And then if you want to reorganize them, all you got to do is tap this and then keep your finger pressed down, and then you can start moving them around in whatever order that suits you. Really, really useful. And then we can go back. And if you want to hide some of these, so for example, we could hide this and this, or whichever ones you want, and they're then going to disappear. So for some reason, if you're in here and you're like, where is that thing that check back here on the organization of them. Now, that's basically the bulk of the video settings. There's some other important video settings that I'm going to get into, but before I do that, I'm going to show you really quickly how to create a preset on the GoPro Hero 13. Really, really simple. All you got to do is keep scrolling until you find create new preset. Is it going to be video? Is it going to be burst? Is it going to be looping video? Now, depending on the mode you're in for photo or time lapse or whatever, you can create different presets. But as we're concentrating on the video stuff today, we're just going to go with video. Standard HDR, because we haven't spoken about log, we're just going to do it here. So we're going to create a log profile. It's going to say color correction. It's going to tell you all these things, right? If you don't want to see that again, just tap that. Then our framing is at 16:9, 8:7. What do we want to do resolution-wise? I'm going to go 5.3K. Our frame rate, 24, 30, or 60. Then the lens that we want on this particular preset, let's have hyper smooth on. Capture, we're not going to look at. And then depending on the mode that you're in, you're actually going to have to look at some of the options here, which are grayed out. So log, it's always going to be 10-bit. The bit rate, as I said, should always be high. Shutter is auto. EV comp, I'm going to bring this down just a tad. Let's bring it down to negative 0.5. White balance auto, ISO min, ISO max, that's all good. Sharpness is low. Denoise is high. I want to bring that down to low. Then our color is GP log. So you can get a LUT from GoPro to kind of correct this to a Rec 709. If all this sounds like double Dutch, then maybe GP log is not for you, but I'm just going through this as an example so you can see how to make a new preset. And then your audio tuning, I like the voice one. And then that's it, basically. And once you're good to go, select that. Let's go with custom name again. Tap that. And that's it. And anytime you want to select that, you just scroll down to wherever it is. Let's say we go from that one. That's loaded up the preset already. And then we're going back here and it's automatically loading up all of those. So I would suggest spend some time, if you're shooting a lot of video, spend some time in this so you can create a slow motion preset, the log preset, a vlogging whatever. There is so many you can create and it is super, super useful. Now, some of the other settings that you really should be kind of taking a quick look at, okay? If we swipe down, there's not a lot here that we really need to pay attention. So for example, current, we don't want that, okay, for voice control, no. Beeps, any of this stuff here, not hugely needed, but if we swipe across and we go to preferences, we can start going down here. If we look at general, for example, quick capture, this is super good if you're kind of wanting to shoot a video just by keeping the record button pressed down when the GoPro is off. It'll turn on automatically, it'll start shooting. When you press record, it'll shut down again. So that's a good one. The default preset, so if you started doing shooting on log, for example, and the last preset we created, every time you turn on the GoPro, it's going to go back to this one, but you can change it to last used video, whichever you want, okay? So super useful to have. LEDs, always have them on so you know when things are recording. And then just really quickly, the actual displays. Here's just a super bonus tip. Have your grid on, especially in your shooting video, because it's going to help you kind of compose your shots with those lines on screen, and keep the brightness as low as possible. You'll get that extra little bit of juice about keeping the brightness down. If you want to save more battery juice on your GoPro Hero 13, make sure you subscribe for some of the videos that are coming really, really soon. And I'll see you on one of those.